I noticed you said something about the children in the community, and also touching on church in the community. How would you describe, you know, the church atmosphere along with the community atmosphere, and how that all ties into the youth in the community of Rosedale?
Can you imagine 6 churches in 14 acres? That's what we have.
6 churches and 14 acres?
Yes, there's a church 2 doors down. One of the churches in this community, Union Baptist Church, is the oldest church in this valley. And I'm told Jefferson County, and maybe even farther, but that was the first church built over even before Trinity, Dawson, or any of the churches over here. That was the first church. And the churches have really been one of the pillars for this community. The people who have moved away still come back to the churches on Sundays. So that is our backbone. It is really the support for the community. Without those, I told you, partners, and I should have named each church and their minister, because they are our partners, and they have been very supportive through the years. In fact, every 5th Sunday, some months have 5 Sundays, and every 5th Sunday they have a service just for the community, which I think is remarkable. And the churches do support the community, and the children at the churches are really the church's backbone now, because many of the families have moved away, and with the children attending the churches, is made for the families to continue to come to Rosedale and support the community.
Looking at some other issues surrounding Rosedale and the surrounding areas, such as Homewood, do you see yourself going and shopping within the community of Rosedale, or do you find yourself sometimes, you know, spreading out and going to Homewood and Hoover? And how would that be different if Rosedale could somewhat establish itself?
Re-establish itself would be a remarkable feat for Homewood as well as Rosedale. At one time, Rosedale had the major businesses, and in fact, in the early years when Rosedale first started, it was the envy of the southeastern region, because they had a recreation system and a school system that had not been done before in the black community, especially in this area. They had the whole system. It was a whole town, and that's why they got so much recognition. There are articles written about the Rosedale community and how progressive it was, how the education system was phenomenal. It was obvious because of what happened to the graduates. All of them became professionals. I don't know of anyone who graduated from Rosedale High School that did not know who he was or she was and didn't do well with their livelihood. There were the very second black person for this area's RS department was black and a graduate of Rosedale. Even though he was a music major, he went into business and was very much sought after. He taught at Miles College. Then he became the comptroller or the assistant comptroller for the A.G. Gasson's bank. And then, once leaving the bank, he went to work for IRS in this area and was really one of the first to work there. And that was a graduate of Rosedale High School.
So
and
you're very proud of Rosedale High School, right?
Oh, yes. I don't think that was very unique.
What would you say are some of your most fond memories of Rosedale High School, as far as, from everything good to everything bad? What would be the one memory you could sit back and go, I remember that, I'll never forget that?
Unfortunately, I can't tell you about Rosedale High School. I didn't go. But I was really amazed at their graduates. There have been 2 schools in Birmingham that I think did wonders for the black community. And that was St. Mark's Episcopal School and the Rosedale High School. Everybody I know who finished those 2 schools were successful. And everybody I hear of who graduated, there is a judge out in the state of Washington who was a graduate of Rosedale High School, Jerome Barris. And ever since I've been over here, I've heard his name, and people talk about him as if he is Oprah Winfrey. And then there is another young man who plays with the Commodores, who is a graduate of Rosedale High School, who grew up over here. There are many of them, and they're well known. And I'm impressed with that kind of knowledge, just learning about different people who graduated and who did well and still doing well.
We've touched on the school and what you thought about education. What were some of the occupations for your neighbors or maybe yourself in the community of Rosedale, and how did living in the community of Rosedale, get you that occupation, or how did you come to that occupation from being a part of Rosedale? Did being in Rosedale have something to do with where you worked or why you worked in a certain place?
Well, I don't know personally what Rosedale did, but I didn't graduate from college until I got married. The year after I got married, not the year after, I'm sorry, but I went back to school and finished, so if I can attribute that to Rosedale, it definitely was a help. But I taught school for a few years, and I know a lot of other teachers in this community. In fact, there was a lady whose name is Mamie Laban Foster, who became the superintendent and the first black superintendent of county schools, elementary schools. And she was very well known around the city of Birmingham, but she grew up here in Rosedale and was a part of the Rosedale community for many, many years, up until she went to live with her children, who, not her own, but her sister's children in California, and that was only after she had become elderly and couldn't live by herself anymore. But there were people like that lived in the community. And my husband's mother had a wonderful, outgoing personality. She taught but many years earlier, and all of her children taught school. There were 7 of them, and all except for one, I believe, taught school. And that was just one family out of many others in the community who mainly, I believe, the profession was teach. I know some nurses who lived here, and musicians. In fact, and when my daughter was born, like 2 or 3 years old, there was a piano in the house, and she would sit there and play, and I was amazed at what she did, and my mother-in-law said, "You just don't know what good music is." She said, "Let me tell you about someone." So she told me about a man who lived in this community, whose name was Alfonso Bogus. He was a musician. He never had formal training, but he played music like you've never heard. he was a jazz musician and played with many of the bands here in this area. So that's what she thought music was, not my child, who I thought was gifted.